Today we're going to start notes for section 5.1, and we're going to begin by talking about ratios. A ratio is a comparison of two quantities using division. And here we have an example of a ratio, 90 over 3. We say 90 to 3, and that's an improper fraction, but we leave them like that with ratios. Another way to write it is 90 colon 3. That is a ratio, means 90 to 3. Or you can actually write 90 to 3. So that is a ratio. So I want you to try and write a couple ratios and then turn this back on to check them. Okay, the first one you should have written 63 over 28. And then when you reduce that, you ask yourself what number goes into both of them, and 7 does. So if you divide each of them by 7, 63 divided by 7 is 9. 28 divided by 7 is 4. So this is the ratio of 9 to 4. You would not change it to a mixed number. The next one has labels, so we keep those. 51 correct over 9 incorrect. Now, on this one, there is a number that goes into both of these. They're both divisible by 3. So then, if we take 51 and divide it by 3, I believe that is 17. So I would say 17 correct. We'll abbreviate that. And 9 divided by 3 is 3, so I have 3 incorrect. So that is how you write ratios, and you leave them in proper fractions. Our next way we're going to look at it is with some dogs and cats. There are 12 dogs and 15 cats at the pet store. So let's look at this first one. Find the ratio of cats to dogs. Well, whatever they say first, we write on top. So there are 15 cats, so I would say 15 cats over, and then dogs is mentioned second, 12 dogs. And if you wanted to reduce that down, you can see that 3 would go into both of those. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So you have 5 cats. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So 5 cats for every 4 dogs. On the next one, they change the order on us. It now says find the ratio of dogs to cats. So on this one, my number of dogs is going to be 12. So 12 goes on top. The number of cats is 15. So 15 cats goes on bottom. And again, we could reduce that to 4 dogs over 5 cats. That is different than the first one of 5 over 4. Now let's look at this last one. Find the ratio of dogs to animals. Dogs is mentioned first. There are 12 dogs. And they want to compare that to animals. Now I have 12 dogs and 15 cats. So together, I have 27 animals. So I'd say 12 over 27 animals. Now, 3 can go into both of those, so I can reduce this still. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So there's 4 dogs for every 27 divided by 3 is 9 animals. That's how you work with ratios. Always keep your units. Now let's look at rates. A rate is a ratio of two quantities with different units. You might have feet and miles or hours per inch, things like that. So here's an example of a rate. 90 miles per 3 hours. Now, usually we're more comfortable dealing with things in what we call unit rates. And a unit rate is a rate in which the second number, the second quantity, is 1. So instead of having 90 over 3, we would go ahead and divide that to make the bottom be 1. So we divide each of them by 3, and it would become 30 miles per hour. So my unit rate is 30 miles over 1 hour, and we usually say that 30 miles per hour, and we could even write that 30 mph for miles per hour. So the thing we want to remember with unit rate, and it's on your paper, you might want to start or something, is that you have to divide to find the unit rate. That's what we did on our Walmart activity, so that should be what we work on. So let's look at an example. A subway car travels 2.5 miles in 5 minutes, and I want to find the speed of the subway car. Now your notes say rate, and then you've got a blank line, and then you've got this. The blank line's a mistake, so cross that out. Here, we're just writing our rate. It was 2.5 miles in 5 minutes, so that would be my rate. But to find the unit rate, you have to divide. And when you divide those, 2.5 divided by 5, you get 0.5 miles per minute. So that's the unit rate you want to write down. You go half a mile every minute, which is pretty quick. We could find that in miles per hour because there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. So if we take 1/2 times 60, you get 30. So this is actually 30 miles per hour if you want to kind of think about how fast it would be traveling. All right, so we want to just look at some examples with this. Go ahead and try and find these unit rates and then turn it back on and check your answers. Okay, on this first one you should have divided 256 divided by 9 and you got 28.4 repeating, so we'll just round that to 28.4. And then we would say miles per gallon. Units are very important. On the next, we're going to take $4.80 and divide it by 6. And you get 0.8. But we're talking about money here, so we would need to change it to 80 cents. And then that would be 80 cents per can. You've got to have your units. Now on this last one, it becomes 21 3/4 divided by 2 1/2. And what you've got there is a fraction within a fraction. When you have that, that is called a complex fraction, okay? A fraction with at least one fraction in the numerator or denominator. And you're going to be dealing with compound fractions in this unit. But we have calculators, so put the top in as a fraction and say divided by and put the bottom in as a fraction. It should work out okay for you. Becomes 8 7/10 or 8.7, either way you want to work it. And then it says meters in an hour, so I would say meters per hour. So division is key for finding a unit rate. So next thing we want to look at is the units. Sometimes we can cancel out units. If I wanted to rewrite this as two fractions, I would put the first one over 1. So it's really 8 pounds over 1 times, we've got $3.50 over a pound. Now when you have fractions next to each other, things can cancel, and I have an LD on each of them, so those cancel. And then I can multiply straight across, and I have 8 times $3.56, or 50 cents, which becomes $28 when you multiply that out. And I keep the dollar sign because that's the only sign that was left. We can do the same thing on this next one. We're going to put this whole thing over 1. And when we do that, now our hours can cancel out. We have to be careful when working this one out. We're going to multiply straight across the top. 3/4 times 19. So you go ahead and multiply that out. And on the top, you get 14 1/4. And on the bottom, 1 times 1/4 is just 1/4. And then you need to go ahead and divide that out. When you do that, you get 57. And the only unit that's left is miles. So that would be my answer. Okay, so we just want to quickly go through these practices on your paper. There are 12 dogs and 15 cats at the pet store. Find the ratio of cats to dogs. They say cats first, so I would say 15 cats over 12 dogs. That's all it wants you to do. And then to find a rate, you bicycle 30 blocks in 20 minutes. Find your speed. So would you say I go how many blocks per minute or minutes per block? It would be blocks per minute. So I have 30 blocks in 20 minutes. Use B for blocks. And then you would go ahead and divide that out to find your answer. And you would say that you go 1.5 blocks per minute. Okay, the rest of this page is just practicing, but we want to look at it in a table and we want to look at it in a graph. So here's the key for a table. You can pick any column to find your unit rate. That's the thing we want to do. So we're going to pick a column. I'll just pick this one. Okay, it says on here, find the unit rate in dollars per square foot. So that means I put dollars on top and my square feet on the bottom. So I'm going to look at this. I've got a 100 and a 400. The 400 is the dollars, so I put that on top. And the 100 is the square feet, so I put that on bottom. And then I simplify it. 400 divided by 100 is 4. which means I pay $4 per square foot. And that's how you would write your answer. So if you have a table, you just pick one section. So here's a table. You pick any section you want. I'm just going to go ahead and pick this one, but I have to read the instruction. It says find your unit rate in dollars per hour. So that tells me that dollars goes on top and hour goes on bottom. So looking at my numbers, my dollars is 90 and I have 6 on the bottom. When I divide those, I get 15. So I'm making $15 per hour by, in this case, dancing, because it says you're dancing for charity. How much do you make in dollars per hour? All right, this one's on a table, on a graph. The graph shows the speed of a subway car. Find the speed in miles per minute. So a subway car is a car that goes underground, like in New York City. The first step is to choose one of the points. Let's choose the point 3 1/2. So we're picking 3 1/2. We need to figure out which each thing stands for. I have units on my table. Remember, when we graph, our first number tells us how far left or right we go, and our second number tells us up and down. So our first number, the 3, is dealing with this bottom thing, which is minutes. So in 3 minutes, I'm going, I'll look at my distance on the side, which is in miles. I'm going 1.5 miles in 3 minutes. So when it says that I need to find that, and it wants to find the speed, and it says miles per minute, which means my miles, which is 1.5, has to go on top, and my minutes, which is 3, has to go on bottom. So if you take 1.5 and divide it by 3, you're going to get a half, 4.5. So I can go half a mile in 1 minute, okay? Which is what we talked about earlier, that it's 30 miles per hour. Okay, here's another graph, so we'll pick a point. Let's pick this one. We've got to figure out what these numbers stand for. So the 4 would be my first number along the bottom, so that's the number of seconds. And the 22, that's my second number along the side, that's going to be in feet. So let's read our instructions. Find your rate in feet per second. Feet was mentioned first, so feet goes on top. So that's my 22. And then my second goes on the bottom, which is 4. Getting ahead of myself here. So 22 divided by 4 gives you 5.5, or 5.5 feet per second. So you've looked at finding rates from tables and finding rates from graphs. Last thing you want to do is a story problem. At 4:34 p.m. you have 81 megabytes of an MP3 song, and by 4:51 you have 999 megabytes. What is the download rate in megabytes per minute? Well, it says megabytes per minute. So that's what I'm looking at. So I have to figure out how many megabytes. I started with 81, and then I got to 999. So I need to figure out how many I downloaded. So I just need to subtract those. And when you subtract these two, you get 918. So I downloaded 918. Now I started at 4:34, and I stopped at 4:51. So you go from 34 to 44 is 10 minutes. And then you've got 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51. So that's 7 more minutes. So you've got 17 minutes you were downloading things. So that's the problem you want to work out. You go ahead and divide those, and you're getting 54 megabytes per minute is your download speed. Okay? So we've looked at a lot of problems with rates in a lot of different situations. So I want you to go ahead and get into your book and do your homework. On 38, you don't need to do B. Don't do number B on 38. And then when you're done, go ahead and take your homework quiz, and you will be done with that.